This is a guide to IP protection in Nigeria. We all know that Nigeria is one of the biggest countries in Africa. So it is important for you to know how to protect your IP in Nigeria. So just go into the presentation. So this presentation is going to take us through and give us an overview of what you need to know about protecting your IP in Africa. It will talk about the regulatory agencies, which are very important. Then it will go on to tell us the kinds of IP protection rights you can have in Nigeria, which are patents, industrial designs, trademarks, copyrights. Then after that, we're going to talk about dispute resolution, how to have disputes resolved, which is very important. And then we're going to talk about enforcement of your IP rights. Then we're going to talk about tips of what you really need to know when protecting your rights in Africa, in Nigeria. And then we're going to have a conclusion. Then Simba is going to take us through questions and answers. So let's just go into it. So the first thing for us to note is that there are just 4 basic IP rights you can have in Nigeria, which are protected by statutes. The first is copyright. The second is patent and designs, which is patent and designs, that's 3. And then we have trademarks. So these are the 4 rights, intellectual property rights you can have in Nigeria. So the first one I'm going to be talking, the next thing I'm going to be talking about is the regulatory agencies that you need to know that help you protect your intellectual property rights in Nigeria. The first one is the National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion. This office is important because when you're bringing in technology into the country, and on the basis of that technology, you want to expatriate, you want to take out your funds, your investments from the country, you need to have a notable license to be able to expatriate to take out those funds. So it is important that you have you have a license from this organization, from this regulatory agency. The second is the National Office for Food and Drug Administration and Control. NAFDAC is important because you can't have a good food, drug, chemical, or anything at all. You can't produce any of those things or bring them into the country without having a NAFDAC license. And why IP is important and as it relates to a NAFDAC license is you can't have a NAFDAC license without a trademark. So that's why this agency is very important. And this agency would also help you with if you had counterfeiting issues or any issues at all, in terms of counterfeiting and bringing and fake products in Nigeria, they will help you with enforcement. The next agency is the Federal Competition and the Consumer Protection Commission. So this commission helps you with, they also help you with enforcement. And because they protect the right of the consumer, they help with enforcement for, in case of counterfeiting or anything, any such disputes. Then we have the Standard Organization of Nigeria. So Standard Organization of Nigeria helps, they regulate all other products that are not goods, that are not food, cosmetic, or drugs. So they help to regulate all other sectors of production in Nigeria. So these 4 agencies are very important to note because if you're going to be investing in Nigeria, if you're going to be enforcing your rights and protecting your intellectual property in Nigeria, then you will have to know it's either one of these agencies. You're going to be working with them. So we're just going to go straight into patents. So it is important to note in Nigeria, you can obtain a patent in Nigeria. A patent is valid for 20 years. And what is important to note about patents in Nigeria is the registry in Nigeria does not have the capabilities to examine as to content. The registry only has the capabilities to examine as to form. And so what that means is if you're going to file a patent in Nigeria, we do not have the ability to actually examine your patent to know what it's, what the content of the patent is. what the registry is going to be looking at is the form, so you have to file different documents. You have to file, does it have a name of the inventor, your claims, the drawings, and those sort of things. The registry has the ability to only examine in that aspect. So you really don't know what your patent is worth. So you ask yourself, if you file a patent in Nigeria, so what is it worth? How would you enforce? How would you stop somebody else from filing the same patent? That question is usually answered by the courts in Nigeria, the Federal High Court, and we're going to get to that shortly. So the next, these are all the forms that need to go into a patent application. It's pretty straightforward. You just have to file, the name of the applicant, the specifications, and then you have the required fee. All patents are now filed online. We have an online filing system that allows you to just, file all your documentation, and within a couple of months, you have your patent certificate. So, like I said earlier on, we do not have the ability to examine the patent as to content. It is no substantive examination. It's just for formalities only. We also have some things that you can't file as patents, which is plant and animal varieties and inventions that are contrary to public policy and order. So such inventions could, there are some things you really can't. Nigeria is a very conservative economy, society. So some things that are maybe protectable, abroad will not pass for protection in Nigeria. The term of patent is 20 years, but you need to pay renewal fees every year for your patent to be valid. Then we're now going to move on to industrial designs. Industrial designs, so in Nigeria, we have the Patent and Industrial Designs Act, because these two kinds of protection are kind of like similar. And so for industrial designs, you have a combination of lines and colors and anything, so industrial designs in Nigeria protect the artistic, so take for instance, a Coca-Cola bottle is protected as an industrial design in Nigeria. So that's a clear example of, what is industrial designs in Nigeria. So it's the get-up of any product. So that's what you file as industrial design. The registry doesn't also have the ability to examine as to content. It only examines as to form. And so as long as you have your power of attorney, a copy of the specimen of the design, and then you have the name of the proprietor, all of those things, once you have them, filed in the application, then you will be granted a patent design, a patent certificate. Like I said, it's only for formalities, no content. The registry doesn't have the ability to actually examine your industrial design application in terms of the content of it. So the validity of a design certificate is for 15 years in total. So you have the first 5 years, and then you renew for another 5 years, and then you renew for another 5 years. So the total term is 15 years for your industrial design. And then you also have to always pay your renewal fee every year. Then we're going to go to trademarks. This is the most interesting of all the intellectual property right protections that you have in Nigeria. It is interesting because, like I said earlier, every product you have in Nigeria, which is, be it a food, a drug, or anything of that sort, a drink, anything at all, must have a trademark. Must have a trademark to be able to get the license to be able to distribute any of those kind of things in Nigeria. So the Trademark Registry is very robust, because it has a high volume and turnover of applications. So of course, we all know that a trademark, it has to be distinctive. It is a mark that differentiates your goods from one proprietor to the other. We also have service marks in Nigeria. We have goods and services. So, and we adopted the 10th edition of the NIST classification of goods and services, which is 45. The first 1 to 34 are for goods, and 35 to 45 are for services. So that's the classification. Of course, you know that each class is in respect of the kinds of goods you can have in those kind of classes. So, like for instance, if you wanted to register a drink, so you know a non-alcoholic drink, then you know you're going to be filing it in class 32. So for services, if you're going to have a business function or anything of that nature, then you know you're going to file those applications in class 35. Then for technology, software and all those kind of services, then you file those applications in class 42. So those are the kind of classes that you have. Most of the very common classes that proprietors register their marks in Nigeria. Okay, so we're now going to go into what you have to have in order for your trademark to be accepted. So what has to go into it? So first of all, you have to have the name of the proprietor. You can file what can be filed as a trademark in Nigeria. Any inventive word, anything that you have, if it's your company name, your name, the signature, anything that is distinctive, that is able to differentiate your mark from your product from another person's product, that can be filed as a trademark in Nigeria. For examination purposes, the registry can do in terms of formality and content. It is important to note that your mark can be refused. So as when we talked about patents and designs, it was clear for us to see that the registry would not refuse your patent or your design application once you have filed all of those, all the documentation that you need to file. So there's really no reason why your patent application or your design application won't be granted a certificate. But as it relates to trademarks, even when you filed all the documentation, your mark can be refused, and it can be refused if there is a similar mark on the register. So we recall that when we were talking about patent, there was I would make an example of if there are two proprietors, that have invented something, right? And they file both of those inventions on the same day. We should also note that Nigeria is the first to file system, right? And if you file the inventions, okay, so take for instance, someone files the first invention, then another person files the same invention on another day. The registry doesn't have the ability to say who owns the patent. It is the court. You have to now file your processes in court, and then the court will now determine in terms of who filed first. And after filing first, when it determines who filed first, then it's going to go on to determine the content, who really owns the patent. Is it new? Does it involve an inventive step? And is it capable of industrial application? So that's a basic example of how the patent system works in Nigeria. But the examination process for trademarks is different, because the registry has the capability and the right to actually examine your patent as to who filed first. If there is a similar mark that was filed before yours, then you're not going to be granted a trademark. And it has to be in that same class. Of course, there are proprietors who have well-known status in Nigeria. So take, for instance, the Coca-Cola mark. No matter the class, that you're trying to file a similar mark to the Coca-Cola mark, it's going to be refused, because such proprietors have well-known status, in the country. So it is important to note that if there is a similar mark in the same class, a similar mark to yours, then it is going to be refused. Another thing to note is that the Trademark Registry is not going to file your mark if it's considered scandalous, contrary to law and morality. A clear example of that would be example of someone wanting to file something like Fat Bastard. We all know that it's a well-known drink, abroad. It will be rejected in the Nigerian registry because, like I said earlier, Nigeria is still a pretty conservative economy where some things are considered scandalous. So if you're going to have such, you're not going to be able to register those kind of trademarks or those sort of words. You're not going to be able to register fat boobs. You're not going to be able to register those sort of things that are really not considered scandalous in the Nigerian economy. So you're not going to be able to register that. So as long as your mark goes through the examination process and it meets the requirements of, there's no earlier similar mark and it's not contrary to law, morality, then you're going to be granted, your mark is going to be accepted. The validity of a trademark is for 7 years. So once it's granted, you have the right for 7 years. And then after 7 years, then you renew. And then you can renew it every 14 years in perpetuity. So people have marks that are registered, that they've owned, as long as you continue to renew every 14 years, then you have a valid trademark. So it is pretty straightforward. We're now going to go to the last of the kind of rights that you have that you can protect in Nigeria, which is copyright. Copyright is vested in, literary works, musical works, cinematography, sound recordings, and broadcasts. It is important to note that registration for copyright in Nigeria is not important. What I mean by that is, once you have created something that is eligible for copyright attaches to it immediately, automatically. But the Nigerian Copyright Commission has come up with a system that allows you to notify, a notification system that allows you to tell the Copyright Commission that you have created something, and it's like a depository where you file at the Copyright Commission, and then they give you a certificate. The certificate that you're given for your copyright notification does not confer copyright on whatever you have created. Copyright attaches immediately, automatically once you have created something. So so my clients would ask me, why would you advise me to have copyright notification? It is important because it helps you have some sort of certificate to keep, especially for proprietors in the tech industry. So tech is basically covered by software, and software is protected as copyright in Nigeria, not as patent or designs. So so imagine that an investor wants to use, what he has created, the software, to raise capital or to raise funds. It is important for whoever it is to have copyright notification to show as evidence of that copyright. So like I said, it is important to note that your copyright notification does not confer copyright. It is just a depository and evidence of the ownership of that copyright. So it is important to have it, although once you have created something that is eligible for copyright, it attaches automatically. Simba, just to check that I'm not going too fast, or everyone is you're still following. I just wanted to check.
Yes, everything is well. And
Okay, that's good. All right, so I just wanted to know that we're all following. And so the term of copyright also has a term in Nigeria. So for literary, music, artistic work is the lifetime of the author and 70 years. After, for cinematography, films is lifetime and 50 years. Sound recording, lifetime and 50 years, and broadcast is lifetime and 50 years. So those are the kind of those are the terms that you have for each of those rights. Then we're going to go to the interesting part, which is dispute resolution. How you are able to resolve intellectual property disputes. In Nigeria, the different court systems, of course, you have the lower courts, the very low, the base courts, which are like the magistrate courts, the customary courts. Then on the state level, you're going to have the high courts. For intellectual property rights, you go a step further. You can only start institute your intellectual property claims or infringement or whatever it is in the federal high court. So the federal high court is, of course, there's one in every state. Is a higher court, is a much higher court than the high court, and that's to show the sort of the level that intellectual property rights, the respect that intellectual property rights are accorded in Nigeria. So if there's an IP dispute, then you go straight to the federal high court. And the time frame for having any dispute, resolving any disputes from start to finish in the federal high court is about 18 to 36 months. Yes, it is long, but sometimes it is inevitable, which is why as intellectual property lawyers, we always advise clients to explore other dispute resolution mechanisms before going to the court to have dispute resolved. So this actually shows the kind of rights that you can have, the kind of enforcement rights you can have when you go to court, the kind of rights that you'll be granted when you go to court to institute an action, but like I said, that we always advise clients to actually explore other dispute resolution mechanisms before going to court as a last resort. One of those dispute resolution mechanisms is the Trademark Registry, if it's the trademark or the patent tribunal. So what the registry has done is, especially for opposition proceedings, you must resolve first at the trademark tribunal. So when you file a trademark and it is accepted, the mark has to go through publication. Once it is published for third-party opposition, if it is opposed, then it goes to the tribunal to hear that matter. And then when it goes through that process of the tribunal, if you're still not satisfied, then you go to court. The court is as a last resort for trademark proceedings, for if there's a trademark dispute, if there's an opposition dispute, then you have to go through the registry first before you go to court. And most often than not, the issues are always resolved at the tribunal level before going to by the time you go through the procedure at the trademark tribunal, that issue is always most times always resolved. So there's really no need for you to go to court, because sometimes it takes a very long time to conclude a process in the court. All right, so then we're going to talk about enforcing your rights. There's really no point having a right that you cannot enforce. It is important. It is important for any investor to know that when you have a right in Nigeria, will it be protected? Can you enforce it? Can you ensure that nobody infringes on it? This is why this part of the presentation is very important. It is important for you to always have watch service. So it is the responsibility of the right owner to always look out for any infringement. Watch service is very, very important. So you can carry out, you can ask your attorney to provide you watch service, and sometimes it is provided complimentary. And one of the ways you can carry out watch service is trademark journal watch service. So once a mark is published in the trademark journal, most proprietors ask their attorneys, or attorneys provide the service sometimes free of charge, to check the trademark journal to ensure that there is no to check if there's any infringing or any similar marks, so that you can oppose. That's one of the easiest ways to enforce, to look out and watch out for your mark in Nigeria. It is important. It is really, really, really important, for you to have that, which is why it is key for you to have, a good attorney, an IP expert in Nigeria to help you with that, to provide that service for you. Of course, we have most of these agencies and the acts that ensure that your rights are protected. Of course, the Trademarks Act, the Merchandise Marks, the NAFDAC Act, the Custom and Excise, Consumer Protection, and the Standards Organization. So these are bodies and their regulations that help you to enforce your rights and enforce against counterfeiters or any kind of infringement. So it is important to note that in enforcing your marks or your IP rights in Nigeria, the sector is key. It is important to know what sector, so take for instance, if it's a good, if it's a food, drug, chemical, or anything for human consumption, then you're going to be enforcing your rights with the regulatory authority, which is NAFDAC. So it is important for you, and each of these regulatory authorities have their procedures and how to go about enforcing your rights. So most enforcement in Nigeria is actually carried along product lines, in terms of take for instance, like I said, if it's a good food, drug, or anything like that, then you have to be enforcing. Then you have to work closely with the NAFDAC regulatory authority. So enforcement is carried along product lines, sector by sector. How do you enforce your IP rights in the drug industry? There are ways to do that. How to enforce your products if it's a medical equipment. Each sector has its own nuances and the things that you need to know when enforcing those rights. That's why it is important for you to have an attorney, an IP expert that understands this, each of these sectors, to be able to assist you with protecting your intellectual property rights. So it is important for you to actually have a strategy, for protecting your IP rights. You need to have a strategy. What we have seen in recent times is most products, everything has gone online. COVID has changed the way we do business. So it is important. Most products are being sold and moved online. So other than having a physical enforcement strategy, you also have to have an enforcement strategy that deals with online products. Because the way things happen online, things move quicker online than sometimes even physically. So you have to have a strategy that deals with, online enforcement and offline enforcement. Yes, there are ways to protect your trademarks and your goods and your products online. So take for instance, the trend that we have seen in Nigeria is, so imagine that we have 2 or 3 online stores in Nigeria. So it's possible for you to see that you have counterfeit or infringement of your products. People selling fake products online. So we have come up with a mechanism where you can work with the online marketplace to actually ensure that there's takedown of those infringing products, there's takedown of counterfeit products. So you can actually work with the online stores to ensure that this is done. And it is important for you to have a good attorney, a good IP expert, to be able to carry out these activities for you, in the jurisdiction. Because of course, this online marketplaces have physical offices, physical places where you can lodge those complaints, and then they will work with you to trace where the counterfeit is coming from, and to stop the infringement. Okay, so Simba, we're almost at the end of the presentation. And this is just a closing note to say that it is important for you to have a good attorney, before going into before investing or bringing in whatever it is you're bringing in, or protecting your IP rights in Nigeria. You have to have a good attorney. You have to have, a good IP expert, and then you also have to understand the sector that you're going to be playing in. So I've been talking about food, drug, and all of that, because those are the most common sectors that people invest in Nigeria. Oh my God, Nigeria is over 120 million people. And so the fastest moving things will be, food, drug, and those sort of things. So it's the easiest place to invest. So it is important for you to have a good attorney, to understand the sector, and to have a clear strategy. So that's what I'll say. And if there are any questions, Simba, I'm sure that there are questions, so I can shed more light on any issues.
Yes, perfect.
That would have been raised during the presentation.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much, Enta, for your very informative presentation. I think you have focused on the key issues of IPR protection in the country, and also some tips in the end of that are very useful for companies that want to do business in the country. And I'm very sure the participants will appreciate the usefulness of these tips that you have shared with us. So now let's move on with the Q&A section of the webinar. And I see there have been some questions put on the chat. The first one of them is there a grace period for industrial designs? I don't know if you or Simba would like to answer this.
Okay, so for grace period, the grace period only applies where you're bringing a foreign application to file in Nigeria. So there's a 3 months grace period. 3 months grace period for you to file that foreign application, and then also grace period in terms of renewal. If you take, for instance, your mark is due for renewal today, you also have another 3 months time within which to renew it before it expires. So that's the two instances of grace periods in Nigeria.
All right. Well, thank you for your response, and we'll move on to the following question as well in the chat. It says, how many designs per class can I file in an application in Nigeria?
Designs per class, about 5 designs per class. The registry will allow you to file between 3 to 5 in one application.
All right. We also have a question that says, do you get a certificate for your copyrights that you can use to enforce your rights? For example, to request a takedown of fake listings on online selling platforms?
So this is for copyrights, right?
Indeed.
Or for IP rights?
Copyrights.
Copyrights. Okay, so like I said, copyrights is automatic once you have filed it. So you really don't need certification is not important, but just for the purposes of documentation, it is important for you to have the copyright certificate, So you really may not need it, because once you have created anything that is eligible for copyright, it attaches automatically, but it is better for you to have it. It's like having good, better, and best. So like I say, it's best for you to have the copyright notification certificate when you want to carry out that enforcement or takedown or anything like that. Yes, it is best for you to have it, but it's not a criteria.
Okay, that is indeed a good tip. Another question we have is that what are the top IP considerations for an EU business before establishing or itself or investing in Nigeria?
I think that's what I've been saying all through the presentation, the sector. You need to know the sector you're investing in. It is important. You can't, because each sector has its nuances, each sector has its rules and its regulations and what you should know. So you need to, first of all, before even investing, you need to ask your IP attorney to tell, you tell him or her what sector you're investing in. Then you're going to tell you everything that you need to know for that sector. It is important. It's a non-negotiable. That way you're able to avoid pitfalls in investing in that sector, because every sector has its issues. Every sector has, its problems. So your attorney has to tell you, all of those issues that you need to look out for before investing. That's key.
Okay. Thank you once again. And I know you went over this in your last part of the presentation, but in terms of enforcement, what are the more practical measures that businesses could take that you could help us out with some tips?
I think, like you said, I said that over and over again. You need to have, it is the responsibility of the IP right owner to watch out and look out for any infringement. The authorities are not going to do that for you. So it is important for you to be vigilant. It is important for you to watch out. So you have to have watch service. I talked about one of the ways to carry out watch service, which is journal watch service. That way you're able to look at every journal to see if there are any similar or infringing mark for you to oppose. That's one of the easiest ways. But anything other than that, you need to be vigilant. You need to look out for any kinds of infringement and stop it immediately. So it's really the responsibility of the right owner to look out for infringement and watch out for his or her mark.
Okay, thanks. I think due to time constraints, we're going to go with a couple more questions and we're going to end it there. But for what I'm saying is, for your experience on the ground in Nigeria, how easy it is for right holders to work with enforcement agencies like the police or customs officials?
Okay, so it is important for you to identify a good attorney, really important. But it is easy. Once you have a good attorney, most of a good attorney or IP lawyer know how to work with these regulatory agencies. It is important to note that in Nigeria, we do not have custom recorders. Our custom service is it's first of all for revenue collection, not for enforcement. But then if you want to now enforce, then your attorney can work with the Nigerian police and the custom to be able to stop these goods from coming in. But now, but customs does not have, they don't have any obligations to fight your battles for you. But if you have a good attorney, a good IP lawyer, then your IP lawyer will work with each of these agencies to be able to stop counterfeiting or stop fake goods from coming in, or just help you in any which way, because sometimes the counterfeiting is even actually done in the jurisdiction, help you to fight all of these things. So it is key that you identify a good attorney.
Okay, really good to know as well. And for the last question, what are the average timelines for the registration of various IP titles?
Okay, so for patents and designs are pretty straightforward because you do not have examination. So within 4 to 6 months, you would have your patent certificate. It gets tricky when you come to trademarks. It is tricky when you come to trademarks because you don't have any control over publication. So the registry doesn't really publish on time. So this year we haven't had any journal. So imagine that you filed a mark. The last time we had a journal was in November. So imagine that you filed a mark in December. Until now, you don't have a journal to publish because the mark has to be published for opposition before you can apply for your certificate. So because of that delay, you really don't have control over the registry. It could take 1 year, it could take 2 years, depending on when it is published. But it is important to note that in order for you to use your mark, you need to get an acceptance notice. And you can get an acceptance notice within sometimes 6 weeks, sometimes within 3 months, you can actually get your acceptance notice. And your acceptance notice allows you to start using your mark in the market. You can bring in the product. NAFDAC will accept your acceptance notice as evidence of trademark ownership to be able to give you a NAFDAC product registration. So I always tell my clients, that you have to conduct a search first. Once a search is conducted, then your mark is going to be accepted quickly. That's for practical purposes. So it's important to conduct a search and then get your mark accepted, and you can get that within a maximum of 3 months so that you can start using your mark. The rest is really, it's really not within your control. So you just wait till whenever the Trademark Registry publishes. But 3 months, I would say, to get your acceptance notices. For patent and designs, within 4 to 6 months, you get your certificate. For trademarks, it's really not in your control, but you can get your acceptance notice within 3 months. And copyright notification, that's pretty straightforward. Your copyright attaches automatically. So getting a copyright notification certificate will take you sometimes within 6 weeks. You can get that out.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Enta, very much for replying to the audience inquiries. I think you have given us a great presentation on how to approach IP in Nigeria with the particularities of its IP system. And we really appreciate the tips that you have also delivered to us with the great performance. And I'm sure the audience will appreciate the knowledge and strategies that you have shared with us today if they're interested in expanding in the country. I want to take a chance to invite everyone to take a moment to go to the Helpdesk's website for more information and check out the Nigeria IP country fact sheet, which is only one out of the 32 country fact sheets that we have produced and counting. And you can also stay updated on our activities on the Africa website, where we also publish news, follow our social media profiles on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn under the name of Africa IPR, where we also publish interesting facts of intellectual property protection in the region, and we'll promote our upcoming events and webinars. So once again, I want to thank all participants for attending this webinar. We truly hope you have received useful information this morning. And Enta, Simba, thank you once again for providing us with your expertise, your effort, and preparation for the webinar. Have a nice day and have a nice week, of course. Bye.
All right, thank you.